Hi, I'm John Barratt. I'm a professor of renal medicine at the University of Leicester in the UK. I've had a career-long interest in the study of IgA nephropathy, and I was part of the group that wrote the 2021 KDIGO clinical practice guidelines for glomerular disease. And I'm currently reviewing the IgA nephropathy section of that guideline because we've had such fantastic new data that we need to completely refresh how we approach this disease with the new drugs that are now available. And I'm here at the 61st ERA conference in Stockholm, and I'm excited to tell you about all the new findings we've had in terms of new drugs and new approaches to the management of this disease. So there's been an explosion of clinical trial activity in IgA nephropathy. And the reason for that has been the fact that actually we have a much more efficient way of assessing whether a drug works in this disease, and that's looking at the early change in proteinuria. This has been a revolution really in how we are able to assess the impact of drugs in a rare, slowly progressive chronic kidney disease. And so the regulators have now accepted an early change in proteinuria as a reasonably likely surrogate of whether a drug is likely to improve kidney function in the long term. And that new change has been leveraged by all of the clinical trials that have been recruiting in recent times. So we had the NefIgArd trial, which was the first trial really to report and had approval for the drug Nefecon. We've had the PROTECT trial of sparsentan that has now been approved based on proteinuria changes. And we've seen data presented over the last 12 months from the APPLAUSE study, looking at the complement inhibitor iptacopan, present its 9-month proteinuria data, showing that blocking the complement system is likely to be protective in IgA nephropathy. And at this conference, we had the 9-month proteinuria data presented from the ALIGN trial, which is a trial of atrasentan in IgA nephropathy. So we're seeing that change in the framework for how we assess whether a drug works and gives data that allows regulators to approve new therapies is actually being used in all of the current trials, from NefIgArd through PROTECT, through APPLAUSE, ALIGN, and actually all the trials that are going to be coming that haven't reported yet. And that really has energized both clinicians and the industry to invest time and effort in this rare kidney disease. So the new therapies that we're seeing coming out in IgA nephropathy are addressing the two fundamental aspects of IgA nephropathy. We have drugs that are targeting the production of the pathogenic IgA. And so we've seen approval for Nefecon, a drug that specifically targets IgA production in the gut. And we're seeing early phase studies now showing us that targeting BAFF and APRIL, two key cytokines that help B cells proliferate, survive, and support IgA class switch recombination, are able to target the production of pathogenic IgA. And we've got a number of phase 3 studies of these agents currently in progress, and hopefully we'll see data from those over the next 6 to 12 months. We also have drugs that are now targeting the inflammation within the kidney, and we saw data presented at the World Congress for iptacopan, a drug that blocks the alternative complement pathway, showing that approach can reduce proteinuria in IgA nephropathy. And there are a number of other complement drugs currently in phase 2 and phase 3 studies in IgA. And then we have drugs that are targeting those downstream consequences of nephron loss due to IgA nephropathy. And these are drugs that we see that are equally applicable to many different forms of CKD. We've seen the SGLT2 inhibitors, we've seen the data there, we've seen how they can be applicable to IgA nephropathy. We've had data on a dual endothelin angiotensin receptor antagonist, sparsentan. That's now an approved therapy that targets the endothelin system. In this congress here, we've seen data presented on atrasentan, which is another endothelin receptor antagonist, showing that treatment with that drug significantly reduces proteinuria at 9 months. And that trial is actually still in follow-up, and we'll look at the GFR effects of that approach in the next 12 to 18 months. And then we have therapies that are coming in other forms of general CKD and are likely to be equally applicable in IgA nephropathy. So FIND CKD is looking at the impact of finerenone. We saw a lot of data at this conference on GLP-1 agonists in diabetic kidney disease, but what we've seen with the clinical trials is many of the drugs that start being evaluated in diabetic kidney disease move into non-diabetic kidney disease, and particularly one of those common causes being IgA nephropathy. So we've got a lot of options coming I think is going to be a very, very fertile area for new therapies over the next 3 to 5 years. And this can only be good news for patients living with IgA nephropathy.